questions that you might have about it. And as I mentioned, we've also got Duncan, who's from 2603.
Hello.
Right. So he wasn't able to be here for the start, but also to take questions then about production itself, anyone that might be interested in taking that, doing that as a career route, just questions about interest in North or anything else you've got about your career journey as well, because 25 years or so you've been in the industry?
Gosh, I wish it was as little as that. No, a bit longer.
Oh.
A bit longer.
Okay, but I think was it 2015 you set up?
I set up
company here as
2603 in 2015, but my first ever job was 1992. I'm ancient.
That was after I was born.
Okay.
It gets scary when it's like, oh no, that's before I was born. Okay, right, questions. I'm just throw it out there. Who wants to go first with a question? Don't be shy. You don't have to have the mic if you don't want them to have the mic. No? Shall I go first with a question? Teachers, by the way, if anyone has, do you guys have questions too? Feel free to ask. No? Okay, I'm going to go first then. How did it come about?
Why this documentary?
So I came up with the idea of doing this documentary about 18 months ago. I really wanted to look at the effects of influencer culture on, young people, consumers, viewers. I felt it was really important and really timely, especially after COVID, and everyone was, I don't know if you all remember, everyone was into fitness, everyone was doing all this healthy living stuff. It was a big trend, and I was doing it too. But for me, I was seeing the other side of it, the girls, the young women messaging me, asking how many calories are you eating in a day, what are you doing, this kind of obsessive diet culture. And it made me quite concerned as to what the real underlying issue is, what's out there, and also how am I contributing to that issue. So this felt like a really important, timely film for me to make, and I've honestly learned so much on this journey, and I think that it's going to be really valuable and really useful to so many people about raising awareness, not only for eating disorders, but also unearthing this influencer culture that so many of us are consumed with.
What were some of the moments in there then that really hit it home or hit it hard for you during the filming process?
I mean, I think every contributor, I really take the stories home with me, and they really change me. Like you see in the film, it's a couple of minutes, but that's actually, whole days or days on end spent with someone, learning about them, seeing how their eating disorder is affecting their lives, and I think when you see it firsthand, it really does change your view of the world, and also change my view of, myself, and made me really introspective, and it's a really life-changing experience making any of these documentaries. They take such a long time to make, and it's a lot of time invested. I think that Tiwa, I don't know if you remember in the film, she spoke about her binge eating disorder, her binge restrict purge disorder, and also about me inspo. I think that was really, really shocking to me. That it just really, really took me back. I remember hearing that for the first time and just being speechless that someone would think that they deserve those kind of comments about themselves. I think another thing that really shocked me was the fact that 85% of people who suffer from an eating disorder are not underweight. I think that there's a real kind of stigma and also misconception around eating disorders, that they affect just young white women, and that they appear really, really slim, and that is absolutely not the case. Eating disorders often are invisible to the eye for 85% of people. I mean, that's really astounding, and it made me kind of realise and rethink when I'm walking down the street and I'm walking past people, you really actually never know what someone's going through.
Thank you. Any moments in that documentary that stood out to you? Anyone want to share anything? Steph, any moments for you that stood out or maybe shocked you?
I was particularly shocked. The lady who I was so pleased to see was that much better. When he visited her again in hospital, she was so gaunt. I can't remember her name.
Lauren.
But I was just worried about her.
Yeah. I think that was another really shocking part, like seeing, because I've gone on a bit of a journey and I've seen people that don't actually look like they have an eating disorder. Lauren, when I saw her for the first time, I was just incredibly shocked, and also the fact that she didn't actually really realise how ill she was. That was another really scary thing. It's only when she got to the clinic, I think she knew she had a problem, but she didn't really know how bad it was. I think she was being told by friends and family how bad it was, but she didn't really truly realise. And I think that's a terrible thing with an illness like anorexia, is you have that voice in your head that's telling you that you're okay, you're fine, to continue to undereat and restrict and telling you things about yourself that just aren't true. And that really does personify the illness. And seeing her better, I mean, even facially, you saw she had more life, she wasn't as gaunt, and she had really began that stage of recovery. I mean, Lauren is actually still in the inpatient facility now, as we speak. She hopefully will be home for Christmas. So yeah, that's as far as I know at the moment. She's still there, she's still recovering. She's been in there since May. She was only expecting to be in there for a couple of weeks. So it just shows how bad her illness was, really.
And then from a production point of view, so I think you guys are going to be doing one around testicular cancer, aren't you? Or have you? Or?
No, we've done that, and we did a documentary called Me, My Brother and Our Balls, which was somebody else who was on Love Island, a guy called Chris Hughes and his brother. And we've just made something for another broadcaster. Am I allowed to mention that? Yes. We just did Hannah Spirit Me and Breast Implants for ITV.
So why are these subjects important then for you to be covering to getting commissioning?
Because I think, very similar to what Zara said, there are issues that affect the audience and affect young people in particular. So there is a male fertility crisis. So a lot of people assume that if a couple have a fertility problem, it's always down to if it's a heterosexual couple that's looking to conceive a baby, it always seems to be the woman's issue to do with fertility. And actually male fertility has been dropping quite drastically since the 50s and is dropping even more drastically in the last decade. And so that was important to say, look, if you're in a relationship, or even if you're not in a relationship, if you're a young man that thinks you might want to father a child at some point, go get your sperm checked now. Because quite often it's too late when you're 35, 36, 37, 38, or whatever age you decide that you might want to father a child. And it's much better to go there now and find out whether you're fertile. And then the issue with breast implants was that there is a thing called breast implant illness, which the medical profession in this country absolutely refuses to recognise. Yet thousands of women who have breast implants every year contract what's known as breast implant illness. And Hannah Spirit had her breasts done in 2013, touching on some of the themes and the issues you were talking about. She basically felt like a tomboy. She sat next to Rachel Stevens in a band called Desktop 7, and she felt inadequate. So eventually she had a breast implant operation, and then fell ill. I mean, seriously ill, not just a bit tired, chronically ill for 3 years. And it was her boyfriend, her partner, Adam, who eventually persuaded her that this illness coincided with her breast implants. And she talked to a US medic who used to do implants, but stopped doing implants and will only now do explants. And he removed her breast implants, and surprise, surprise, she got well again. So, you know, these are things that need to be addressed, but need to be addressed when somebody like Zara addresses an issue like disordered eating. It becomes relevant to you, and you're going to watch it in the same way as people watch Chris talk about male fertility.
And how easy is it for any of those documentaries you've discussed to get people then to come forward to talk about such sensitive and personal topics and issues to them?
I mean, I think for me, in my documentaries, as you can see, they always start with a shout out on my social media, so people tend to come forward with their stories. A huge majority of the time, they actually sometimes just want to talk about it, and then they don't want to be a part of the film, and that is totally okay. And we provide them with the support when we can. But within the film, you know, there are there are actually a lot of people that come forward and want to speak. I think something that was really hard, especially with this film, was getting males to come forward and talk about their disordered eating, because there is a stereotype, there's a stigma around male eating disorders, and unfortunately with that comes a real lack of people wanting to talk about it. So by making this documentary, I really wanted to hopefully at some point bring awareness to some male eating disorders. I was able to, in the group session, there was a group of guys in that session. They were the only guys I was able to get, sadly, because there is this stigma, and it kind of keeps going in a circle, keeps replaying itself. So it's not always easy to get every single contributor that you want, but I think that we try and find a diverse range of different contributors, just to try and be as kind of inclusive and across the spectrum as possible.
And from your point of view, because it takes a skill to try and persuade people to come on camera.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's all sorts of outreach through message boards, etc. But I'd say if there was a tip I'd give you is use the telephone when you're trying to do that type of research. We recruit a lot of entry-level people into our production teams, some from down the road at Sunderland University, some from up the road at Northumbria, a couple from Teesside. There's one thing I've noticed about the younger generation. You don't like calling people on the telephone.
Hang on, when was the last time someone picked up the phone and phoned someone? Adam ago. You have, didn't it?
People don't call their friends anymore, do they? Snapchat.
So if there's a skill I'd urge you to develop if you ever want to source contributors from a documentary, yes, you uncover leads on message boards, but you won't convert a lead into a contributor unless you establish trust and communication through the telephone or a Zoom.
We had interviewing an apprentice at BBC, and she said she went and purposely got a job at a fast food restaurant because then it caused her to pick up the phone, take orders, learn how to talk to people, so then it just put her in a better position than when she was out working. Thank you. There was a question?
Yeah.
Okay,
So do you ever regret going on Love Island? Because it's probably one of the most controversial shows on TV when you actually think of the amount of suicides that have came from that show. I understand that it's a bit of a clout boost because you get more followers for going on there. But I do think a lot of people go on the show who aren't mentally prepared to deal with what comes with it, and I don't think people quite understand how bad it can get after you go on there, because you get people who go on and they just don't expect the abuse they're going to get.
Yes, thank you for that. I don't think anything can ever prepare you for that. I think that you can have as many sessions with people, producers from the show, as they'll give you, and you still never be prepared for what it actually feels like when you come out. For me, there was positives of coming out. There was positives of the show. I look back on my actual time in the show and I'm like, oh my gosh, it was like the best experience of my life. But also, there's negative parts. There's negative parts of everything. I had the highest highs and some of the lowest lows. That was a decision that I think I made, and I kind of prepared myself as best I could, but as I say, no one can. So I wouldn't say I regret going on the show at all, because it's given me the platform and the ability to do what I do now. But like to anyone who ever was going to go on the show, it's really clear now. I mean, when I went on it, I was only on season 4, it only happened 4 times. It was a really, it was on the up, but it wasn't, no one really knew and really understood in society the idea of trolling and how bad it can get. I think now all of us are more aware of what it feels like because more people have spoken about it since. But no, I wouldn't say I regret going on, but there might be some people that do. That's just a decision that I was really happy. I'm happy that I made that decision in the end.
I was quite shocked as an older person how quickly the algorithms in social media push people towards content that they might not necessarily have wanted to see, to that's diverse from what they wanted. I was wondering if our student body had questions about that, or is that something that's familiar to you? You just expect that? If you've searched for something that's sporting related, that you get something in your content that's about weight loss, and that's not necessarily what you were searching for. Is that just between your young selves and my older self? Is that just something that you're collectively familiar with? Is that normal? Yeah.
You just expect it.
Yeah. And I think also like the algorithm does look at things like, you might get a video up that you might not want to see, but if you are interested or intrigued by it, you might watch it, and then it thinks, oh, you want to see more of this content, I'll give it to you. Even though you haven't searched for it, you even watching it or engaging with it is making the algorithm think that you want to see it. My biggest tip for managing your social media, and it's something that I do a lot, is telling things like TikTok. If you see something and you're like, oh, I don't want to see this, telling it. If you hold down on the video, you can press not interested. You can also refresh all your content preferences if you start seeing things that you think this is just really not useful to my life to be seeing this type of content, because it is out there. Just make sure you keep updating your preferences. Like, don't feel that you have to just keep going with the algorithm that you've got. You do have the power to make some changes, even though it is a hard thing. It's a massive computer system that one person can't overcome. You can change your algorithm, so constantly update your preferences, especially on TikTok, is really, really, really important.
And one thing that we were saying yesterday as well about social media and what we expect, like you asked TikTok for a statement and then, come on, we interviewed and gave a statement, but actually, and it's not to excuse social media companies, but we expect so much of it to take responsibility, and it just doesn't seem to happen, does it? So we're still being shown certain images. There are certain websites that shock us that we think, oh, why does that even exist? So then it's like, do we start taking ownership then? So is it now more down to us to stop looking at stuff or using certain platforms to, like, say, change what you're searching for and refresh it? They don't seem to be making something that we do.
Yeah, I mean, if you saw on the film, actually I don't know if this part was in the film, but basically you searched for eating disorders, anorexia. If I search for those words as they are, TikTok comes up and it blocks you and it directs you to a charity, which is good. But the problem is that people are still posting pro-eating disorder content, which, I think it blows a lot of people's minds that this content is out there. People are promoting eating disorders on TikTok. It is really there, and it's not even hard to find. I changed a few characters in the word anorexia, and this content was really, really freely available. So people are just being clever at hiding this pro-eating disorder content. The question is, if I was able to find it so easily, why weren't they? There needs to be constantly looking at how, people are adapting, trying to mask this content online. So the social media platforms are doing something. They're not allowing explicit eating disorder promotion content, but again, people are just getting better at hiding it, and it's quite scary.
Can I just ask something, just from a support point of view? Obviously, I think you touched on it in the documentary around the challenges of those on waiting lists, so those young people that you were talking to around accessing that support to help them to get better.
Yeah.
What did you find kind of generally around the challenges of that, and is it something that you supported within the documentary, supported those young people with around accessing support, or was the support available through production?
Yeah, so we support all of our contributors after and for however long they need that support, and we're always checking in with them. Put your story on TV. It's a really big thing to ask of someone, a really big thing for them to do. A lot of these people have never even been in front of a camera before, so it's really scary for them. And it's a lot. Some people need a lot of support. Some people, want to go and seek their support privately. I would always suggest, anyone sitting here, if you or someone is suffering, there's a few things you can do. Always direct that person to their GP. GP can refer you, can send you for some extra support, but also I would definitely say get in touch with the charity BEAT, BEAT, Eating Disorders. They are an amazing charity. They have a free helpline, free web chat. You can talk to them whenever you need to talk to them. They're available. Even if you want support because someone you know is struggling and you don't know how to access that support or what to do or where to go, even if you're not suffering yourself, you can still call them. They're still there and available. So yeah, I would urge anyone to call them if you need anything.
On cue, number there. Should anybody need it as well? So bring it back to production process. So say, right, thank you.
So bring it back to production process. So Zara has an idea, comes to you then Duncan. How does it go from being an idea to then being on BBC Three or any other provider?
Well, nowadays I'm a producer, so I don't decide what goes on television. I used to be a commissioner, so I worked at ITV, I worked at Sky, I worked at ABC, so I've been in Los Angeles, so I've been on both sides of the fence. Zara and I would talk about the idea. We talk about what the essence of it was, and then you'd present it mostly with a piece of videotape and a document. So yeah, so we'd shoot a little bit of tape to explain what the idea was about. Sometimes that can just be Zoom interviews with potential contributors. So the way we got Angels of the North commissioned was by doing Zoom interviews with Sammy Jo Hammam and the girls who worked in the salon, and cut it down into a little 5-6 minute video. The way we got 24/7 Pet Hospital, which hasn't been on air yet, but it's a BBC One daytime show set in an animal hospital in Durham, was to go along with a camera, shoot and edit. It's quite difficult just for me as a producer to pitch something verbally. It's easier if I go in the room with a star like Zara, because that immediately, Zara posted something about disordered eating. When did you post it? Last night. It's already had 1 million views. So when you walk in with a key piece of talent like Zara, that becomes an easier sell. But we have to sit down, we have to hone the idea, we have to discuss it, challenge each other about its essence and its narrative truth, and then get some materials together to pitch it to a broadcaster. And by the way, all kinds of things have to align for it to get commissioned. It isn't just because it's a good idea, and by the way, lots of really bad ideas get on television. I'll name a few if you want me to. But all the stars have to align. There has to be money in the budget. You have to pitch it to the right department if you're pitching it at the BBC, because it's like a university and all the different departments are like faculties, and you have to pitch the right department, the right project. So it's a really complicated process, and that's why television's losing young people as an audience, because you can self-publish on platforms, and you don't have to go to somebody and ask their permission to get some money to make something. You can do it yourself, and that's a really big battle that television has to fight to be more accessible, because the people who decide what goes on television are 1 million miles away from this room and don't understand your experience and what you want to watch.
Can I just follow on from that question? Just ask you, how long did it take you to make and edit the documentary?
This one.
Yeah.
So I took this idea to my commissioner in June 2021. We started developing in about October 2021, and then we started shooting towards the end of January 2022. The edit started actually on the 24th of June, I remember, and it finished in September, about the end of September. So all in all, it's quite a long process that people don't, you see an hour And actually so much has gone into making just one film, and so many people have seen it, and then they give edit, like I've seen this about 12 times now. You give edit notes, you know, the first rough cut is very different to what it looks like now. And getting lots of people's input on it, sometimes it is tough when lots of people are saying lots of different things, and it's, you know, you've got to get it all into the edit. I'm not an editor, so I don't have that job, I just give the notes, but yeah, it's a process, and also not a lot of presenters probably even get involved in that. That's just something that I personally do because I enjoy it. So it's a really long process of making something like this, but it's really important that it is a long process, because something like this is such a sensitive topic. It deserves and needs the time and the intricacy and the care.
Is that about average, 18 months?
Yes and no. Angels was really quick. But that started as a short form 17-minute. But we did that in 15 weeks, soup to nuts. But we had to do it because part of the way it was being funded was money out of that calendar year, so we had no choice. But actually, it was really good because you just went on and did it. And too much of television was too many people chin stroking and going, "Oh, it needs to be a bit more." You know, it becomes unnecessarily complicated. But I'm trying to think of me, my brother, and our balls was about the same time frame. Breast implants, 9-10 months. But yes, the thing is, for a documentary, your shoot footage, the ratio of footage that you shoot is going to be 20-30 times more than the hour that you cut it down to. So that's the skill. I think we had 60 something hours of footage, 65 hours of footage in this. Wow.
A lot. So, and that's cut down to 57 minutes. So you can imagine all the stuff that doesn't make it. Yeah, there's a question up there. No, definitely not as much as I used to. I think, to be honest, my social media is locked down, so I have a lot of like hidden words. So if someone comments something of a certain word, it automatically deletes. It's really important that everyone does it on the social media, I think, because it's just an unmoderated, you know, jungle, if not. But yeah, I don't think as much. I don't get really any like negative messages. I mean, you always get the odd one. It is what it is. Sometimes they're more hurtful than others. You know, sometimes they're just like, "Oh, you look horrible today," in which case you can go, "Oh, fine." Sometimes they're a bit deeper than that, and they're, you know, it's really tough to kind of sometimes handle those ones, but definitely not as much as I used to. I think because of the work I do now, and the hopefully positivity that I'm trying to bring, and what I'm trying to do with my platform, raise awareness, makes it a bit harder for people to find fault with that. But yeah.
Sorry.
That's right. Thank you.
So, just one on from that question, do you ever feel you have to take a break from social media and kind of come back to it another day or 2 days, or you always kind of constantly engaging with kind of content and comments that are put up that are on your page and so on?
I think if I was answering this and I wasn't being truthful, I'd say yes, I take a good break from social media regularly, every evening. The real answer is no, I don't. I actually don't. I actually enjoy social media a lot. Part of that is probably because of how moderated my social media is. It's a very safe space for me. I think that sometimes social media can be demonised a little bit, and people can feel like it's not that creative, fun space. It really is a creative, fun space for a lot of people, and we shouldn't forget that. It's really important. That's why I think to kind of moderate and control, set your controls, refresh your algorithm so it is that positive space for you, because mine is now such a positive space. I think that I don't feel the need to take that break. Years ago, completely would turn my phone off for like 4 days and not interact with it at all, and then be petrified to turn my phone back on because I didn't know what I was going to see and knew I was going to be hurt by something I read. I think you grow resilience to that, and also you just, yeah, as I say, learn to moderate what is on there.
I'm going to ask one last question and we can go, because you guys have been very patient for this today. For you, Duncan, talking about careers and jobs, and you're based here in the North East. Advice, skills, tips For anyone thinking about going for a career within the creative industry, what are some of the helpful suggestions you'd give?
Okay, if you want a job in television, you've got to watch it and you've got to love it. And television is a bit arrogant because it expects you to watch it. No, you don't, because a lot of it is boring and and irrelevant to you. But if you are serious about having a job in television, in an interview, I'm going to ask you what you watched last night, what your favourite programme is, what you don't like and why you don't like it. And yes, I'm really interested in what your social media is and what your TikTok preferences are, and that will all inform our creativity. But if you don't watch it, it's really difficult to get past entry level. You might get a job as a runner, you might get a job as a data wrangler, but it's an all-consuming passion, and that's what's wrong with television. But that's also what's great about working in it. So that would be my number one tip. My second tip is just be yourself. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you use your talent as a weapon to hurt other people, rather than your talent as an energy source to enable the people around you, you'll run out of road really fast. The amount of people who walk through the door go, oh, I've done this and I've done that. You know what? At the end of the day, you just want somebody that's likable to come in, somebody you want to be around the next day, and somebody who fits into a team.
Mm-hmm.
So those would be my my top two tips.
Thank you very much. And on that, I think we will wrap it up.
Thank you all so much for coming, by the way. I really appreciate you giving up your time. It really means a lot to me. Thank you.
So the documentary does